My name is John Hare. I'm the CEO of a Winnipeg-based clinical stage biopharmaceutical company. And when I call it clinical stage, that means we're beyond, for the treatment we're doing, we're beyond the R&D side, and we're actually now approved for recruiting patients to go through our phase trials. And right now we're in the middle of phase 2 clinical trial. And typically how these clinical trials work, you go phase 1, which is your safety, phase 2, which is safety and efficacy, and phase 3 is just more patients of the same. And we're in the middle of phase 2, and typically where you get your data from is phase 2. The normal exit strategy for a biopharmaceutical company is typically you get the end of phase 2, and then theoretically big pharma would come and like what you're doing and potentially buy you out. To me, that's kind of a broken system. As a matter of fact, not long ago I did a video that trying to outline sort of the problems with the medical development business in itself. And so basically what I titled that was "The Business of Medicine is Broken." And basically what the problem with that is you've got opposing goals. And let's face it, pharma is no different than any other business in any other industry. They're in the business to make money. And so don't ever lose track of that. As a matter of fact, obviously we're in the same business to try to do the same. But you get to the point where it can't just be motivated by money only. In other words, the goal really should be, it's health versus profit, but the health sort of seems to get lost in the whole process. And part of the reason for that is, okay, if you look at the development of medicines in general and what it's all about. And, I'm a novice to this. This is the very first one we ever done. As a matter of fact, my background is animal agriculture, and our company brought the very first oral dose antibody, which is what we do in the world, the very first ever to treat E. coli in baby in small farm animals, food production animals. And so we have a little bit of experience on the animal side, and I'd like to say the animal side is quite different than the human side. But on the human side, because of the safety issue primarily, and the profitability of it besides, because on the agricultural side, the profitability is certainly there for drugs that are required, but there's no superfluous drugs, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, one of the biggest problems on human drug development is, first of all, you've got to come up with a drug, which we've now done with our C. diff treatment, which is great, so we're past that. But they say that the cost overall to bring a drug to market, which certainly whatever the cost is to build that drug to begin with and to determine that you've got something that looks like it's going to work, that's part of it. But then, you need to get the FDA approval, which is to go through these phase trials, get approval from the FDA and Health Canada, in our case, to be allowed to recruit patients. That's the first thing. And then, so once you've got that, away you go on your trials. Anyway, they say the average cost to bring a drug to market is between $1 and $3 billion and 10 to 15 years of time. And I can attest to that. The time has certainly been close to what they're saying. We haven't spent anywhere near that kind of money because obviously we haven't got that kind of money. And we're located in Winnipeg, which is certainly not a hotbed of biopharma to begin with. Anyway, so that's one of the biggest problems. So now, then you get into the insurance business, and especially in the United States, one of the biggest things is, people almost take jobs down there if they get benefits, which includes insurance for drugs. And to get the approval for drugs to be into the basket of insurable treatments, they need to get that FDA approval, which takes, 10 to 15 years and $1 to $3 billion. So, but people think, oh, well, great, the insurance is going to cover it once it's there. But, what I say is somebody has to pay the insurance. So insurance is kind of a fallacy, especially in the U.S. situation. But anyway, one of the biggest problems is the mandate that pharma has. Yeah, they might want to develop some treatments that will obviously help people, but they're only going to do it if they can get the return. And so when you think about it, when you've got a cost of $1 to $3 billion, they're only going to look at drugs. They're going to give them a payback to that kind of investment they'd have to make. And so you think about what are those treatments? Well, one of the biggest problems is antibiotics. Now, we know about antibiotics. Everybody knows about antibiotics because they kill bacterial infections, which is great. But probably what most people don't know, and it's, and they're now saying it's the coming pandemic, is that we haven't developed any new antibiotics for a long time. And so what we're targeting in our treatment, which is what we're looking on this private-public partnership, is a bacterial infection called C. Difficile or C. diff infection, which infects about 500,000 North Americans every year and kills about 30,000 of them. And so Typically, the treatment for that is an antimicrobial, which is an antibiotic. Normally, as a matter of fact, in the time that we've been working on this since 2012, the original was a drug called metronidazole, which is an antibiotic, and now they've moved over to vancomycin, and even of late, I've been seeing fidaxomicin being prescribed. And so basically what those are targeted antibiotics that are more expensive, and they are being held in reserve because they're sort of last resort antibiotics. The biggest problem there is what they call AMR, antimicrobial resistance, which is going to be the new pandemic, because they're saying by 2050, 10 million people a year are going to die because they get a cut on their finger and there's no antibiotics to treat it. So one of the things we're doing, and why we need help from the public sector, is because we're actually targeting new antimicrobial treatments, which Big Pharma has no desire at all. Because here's the problem. Two problems. You spend all that money, $1 to $3 billion, to develop a drug for an antibiotic. Let's face it, it's just going to kill a bacteria. That's what it's supposed to do. And the first thing that happens, your treatment is held in reserve because they want to make sure that all the other antibiotics that are still there that might be working are used first. So you've spent all this money to get this product developed, and then the industry doesn't want to use it because they're trying to hold it in reserve. So that's the first problem. Second problem is, and Pharma probably, I don't want to be cynical in this one, but, the antibiotic is used short term. I think fidaxomicin now, the price of fidaxomicin is $5,600 to treat, and that's high. By if you've gone to the drugstore and gotten antibiotics, of late, that's monstrously high by comparison to the amoxicillin and things like that you buy for $50. And so $5,600 US sounds like a lot of money, but I'm going to tell you, the drugs that are being approved right now by the FDA, on average, cost a patient $115,000 a year. So in other words, those are the drugs that are being approved. Pharma doesn't really want anything to do with a treatment that's only going to give them $5,600 per patient, and only if those patients get sick with a bacterial infection. And it's over after the 10 to 15 day course of treatment. And, I don't want to be cynical, like I said earlier, but really, antibiotics make people better. That sort of goes against the grain for Pharma, if you think about it. They do better when people aren't better. Anyway, what we're trying to say is, okay, we have gotten to this stage, which is pretty incredible for a Canadian small business, and we're small. We've got 8 or 9 people working for us, but we've come up, as small as we are, we've come up with a treatment that actually is doing better than any other the standard of care to treat the C Difficile, which is what we're targeting. We need help to get through this phase 2 and 3 trials and to bring the treatment to market. We're probably not going to get the help from Big Pharma because, again, it's not something they look at. There's not enough payback in developing antimicrobials. So, this is a follow-up to a letter I sent out to a lot of the people in the Manitoba government, and hopefully you'll have a look and see, maybe we better talk to these guys, because it'd be a shame that in Winnipeg, when you have a biopharmaceutical company, and there aren't many of us, let's face it, in Canada in general there aren't, because we're a small population country, and we just don't have the people that know about that industry. And so we're here, we're doing it, need help from the public sector. I hope you'll have a look at us. Our information will be available on this video. Again, my name is John Harris, CEO of ImmuniMed, biopharmaceutical company. We're sitting in the lab right now out in Fort Garry, and we'd love to have you people come and visit what we're doing and see if we can't bring this thing forward.